Good afternoon. Welcome to this week's episode of Hired. I am Mike, and I am joined by a guest that I'm still scratching my head as to why she's here talking to us, but I'll ask her that when she comes out momentarily. Lynn Smith is joining us today, and she is the founder of Ryland Media. And let me tell you, the topic we're going to be talking about today is all about storytelling, how to unleash and uncover your superpower through storytelling. And there's nobody better to guide us through this journey than Lynn. Founding Ryland Media, she kind of takes insights from her 15-year career inside, listen to this, NBC News, MSNBC, and CNN. So her business, Ryland Media, tackles the largest branding and communication challenges that organizations face. Aside from that, she also advises leaders on how to develop, craft, and communicate compelling messages through video. So without further ado, because I know if you're watching this live, you're not here to see me, you're here to see Lynn. So let me welcome you all to Lynn Smith. Lynn, welcome.
Thank you. What a sweet introduction. And I just have to point out, so video is totally my love language. And that intro that you have on this show is so well produced. So bravo to you. You get the seal of approval from Ryland Media on that one.
Thank you. That's amazing. We're off to a good start already. So I'm so happy you joined us. Before we jump in, burning question that I have is, how many cups of coffee is too many cups of coffee before going live on video? Do you get the jitters sometimes? Have you experimented with
I'm a recovering morning news anchor. There is no limit to the amount of coffee that needs to be consumed. No, I don't get the jitters. I just need a little bit more. If there was an IV, I would invent that.
What's your limit? Have you had, like, I was talking to someone the other day that like had they claimed, and I think that this is a lie, because they claim they had 21 coffees in a day.
I mean, that would probably kill me. Yeah, that would kill me. There is one story that I actually have never shared before, but I was a weekend morning anchor at Headline News, and I was pregnant with my second child, and I accidentally took the Unisom vitamin B combination in the morning, or in the middle of the night for my morning show. Didn't realize that was going to basically put me to sleep. So I was anchoring an entire show on Unisom. Talk about pregnancy brain. So that was the time that I think I drank the most coffee. So if my son ever seems a little bit like that, he's certainly got his fix of caffeine.
That's incredible. That's great. The other thing I'm curious about, just because you see it, and it's probably in movies that kind of don't give a fair representation of what the actual experience is like. Do you have any warm-up phrases or things that you say to like make sure that your words come out right before you go live? Or do you have like a pre, like when they're counting down, like do you do anything right before the camera goes live that has worked?
Right. It's not the anchor man sort of. No, it's not that. And I actually tell this to clients now. I had a routine, and so many anchors, once I started talking to them, I realized had the same thing, but it gets you into kind of the game day mentality. Professional athletes do the exact same thing. When they're walking off the bus and they have those headphones on, you know that they have a carefully crafted playlist that has been designed for victory. And so I want people to think of, when they're going into something really big, this same kind of routine. So for me, I drank my coffee at the same time every morning. I made my second cup of coffee at the same time every morning. I went into hair and makeup at the same time. I sat in the anchor seat exactly 10 minutes before, not 11, not 9, 10 minutes before the show started. And I think that routine is what gets you, as I say, into the victory mindset. So much of success, whether it's on camera or in business, is how well you can control your mindset and how well you can visualize the kind of results that you want to get. So I want you to think of yourself as a professional athlete, and how are you going to go out there and kill it?
I love that. I was reading something about Michael Phelps in terms of his pre-race routine that he practiced. Like, it was part of his weekly practice that he would, the way he would come onto the pool was the exact same way, whether it was a gold medal race or it was a Monday. And to your point, it was just the mindset. It was always there, ready to perform and compete. So I think a lot of people when we get transition to corporate life don't think of themselves as performers or athletes, but you're saying you need that mindset. You have to kind of keep it sharp.
Well, you all now are broadcasters. Guess what? Like, congratulations. Everyone's a broadcaster. You're on Zoom, you're pitching clients, you're pitching yourself if you're being interviewed for something, and it's into this tiny little black lens that just doesn't feel comfortable for most people. For me, it's like my lovey. I like my kids, they have their blanket and it's their lovey. For me, the camera became that way. And that's what's so exciting for me, to see people transform this fear of connecting on camera to really talking through the lens and feeling confident in that way. And that's what's so important for people to realize right now. Video's the new boardroom. You have to be able to communicate effectively through the lens.
And that's why I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy we got connected, because, you know, our conversations we had prior was, you know, lockdown happens, everybody moves to this virtual world, and all of a sudden business is done through video. And nobody got training on how to do this, right? Like, we learn how to presentation in business school, and when you're corporately, it's you know, there's a lot of rigor and training around that. And now to bring it to this medium, we're kind of figuring it out as we go, and we don't really know what we're doing. So that's why we got to learn from the experts, the people that have dedicated their entire careers to doing this. And, you know, I'm preaching the power of video platform when it comes to hiring, but this is beyond just hiring. It's just business in general. Everybody could benefit from learning from people in the media business. So I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy we're going to be chatting about this topic. But before we do, you know, I don't want you to kind of retrace your steps of your 15-year illustrious career.
Please, I don't want to put everyone to sleep.
Is there a moment or a project that you can point to where it almost changed your perspective as a person, as a professional, something you're proud of, or something that, yeah, I'm always curious to learn. I mean, you've probably had so many experiences. You've traveled around the world, seen different things. Is there something that stands out as like, I can point to this as impactful?
I would say it was my aha moment when I decided that I wanted to leave the news. I think that many of us, and probably a lot of people watching right now who are going to be interviewed for a job, you're probably doing so because you made a career switch. That's the great resignation, right? And the aha moment for me really came during that pandemic where, as I said, I'm a recovering morning news anchor, where I was out the door at 5 o'clock every morning. I didn't see my kids. I didn't make them breakfast. I would leave a note under the door for my son. He would ask me every night, "Are you going to be here in the morning?" And then I would ask him, you know, "I'm not, but what would you want me to draw for you?" And I'd draw the picture and leave it under his door to let him know, "Mom's still there in the morning. I'm just not physically there." And that's not how you want to be as a parent. And I realized I was a mom first, but instead of walking away from a career, I wanted to recalibrate all of this information I gathered over this time and realign it with a new audience. And you made that statement at the beginning, which you're so kind. Why would she come on and do this? The thing I love about my work so much is connecting to a different group and a different audience. And the thrill for me is talking to new people. I never had that opportunity. I was talking into a lens, and I had people watching me in their living rooms, and I never got to connect with them. And now I'm able to do that through podcasts. I host my own, I go on them, and being able to share some of the things that I learned that helped me feel more confident. Because trust me, I have plenty of stories I can share with you today of when I fell on my face. I know the pain of when you don't feel confident in that way, and what got me to a place where I do feel like I can handle not just camera, but other things in launching a business. And so that was really what I would say completely changed my life and my family's life. It was just that aha moment.
Great moment. And to go back to the drawings, what are you the most, what could you draw the best? Like, what was the most high demand image that your son was asking for? And what do you feel the most comfortable drawing now?
Oh my gosh, Mike, you would not believe. He was so specific. And I need to put, because I saved all of them and I took pictures of all of them. He was so specific. It would be like, I want a fire truck, but it broke down on the side of the road because the tire burst. And then there's a bucket of noodles. I'm not kidding. And then there's a Corvette, but it's flipped upside. I mean, the specifics of this child. I'm like, you realize that I'm drawing this at like 3 o'clock in the morning, trying to get out the door. But I got it down pretty good. I'm going to put it up on my socials. I'm going to put it on Instagram and just do a little collage of my best of mom
I would
drawings.
love to see those. I would love to see those. And like, kudos to him for having the creative imagination to just not think about a fire truck, but a whole scene that
Yeah.
mom has to draw. So that's great.
It's supposed to be
And I
challenging.
appreciate you being here and talking about different industries. Obviously, you know, for us, we're applying kind of video and creating content to the hiring process. So if we're going to jump into that when it comes to storytelling, why do you think storytelling is so important in the hiring process, both as a candidate when you're being interviewed or looking for a job, how you present yourself, and as a hiring manager, kind of trying to attract talent?
I think the most important part is because your story is the only thing in which you will have zero competition. There is no one else that has your story. No one, and I call it your uniqueifier. It is the thing that makes you unique. And say that's a story of something that's happened to you, something that you've done. Nobody else has it. So why wouldn't you focus on that storytelling piece? And right now, you know, we're in a place where hiring can be challenging and you might have a lot of different options, but we're also at a time where people want to be doing important work. And so they want to feel like their purpose is being fulfilled in their job. They're not just getting their paycheck. I would imagine that many of you watching right now probably are saying, am I making the impact that I want to make? If I'm spending time away from family, friends, and my own life, am I making an impact? And you need to be able to articulate that in a way that draws your employer to you, because that's how you're going to make your impact. They need a buy-in on that so that they can help you make that come to fruition.
And in terms of, I absolutely love that. The tagline that you just said is, you know, nobody has your story, and that's what makes it unique. And you're competing with nobody when you're telling your own story. I mean, that's, and you can kind of relate that to candidates looking for a job, or even if you're a hiring manager trying to say, like, you need to come and work for me because talent's in high demand. Like, tell a compelling story. Don't just leverage the company one. Like, have a unique story about yourself that people can resonate with to draw in. So I absolutely love that. You know, as we talk about developing that unique story, what's the number one challenge you've seen, or a couple that people have when they think about trying to develop their own unique story about themselves?
So many times people say they don't feel their story is big enough. And sadly, I've found that especially with women. We are nurturers by nature. And so we oftentimes in business are looking to help tell the story of our company or help tell the story of our CEO, but are maybe a little bit more shy to tell the story of ourselves. Your story is significant because it's the only thing that differentiates yourself. No matter how big or how small, you can influence others with it. And when you talk about the hiring manager's point of view, I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine who's considering this really big job. And I was like, well, what is it about that job that makes you really interested in it? Because it involves some logistical changes and complicated things. And she said, the people. It's the people. And if you can't articulate the story of your people in your organization, you're not going to be able to draw that top talent, because we've just all grown in these last 2 years to understand that communication and collaboration and connection is what is going to make us most successful.
And your story is evidence of that. I mean, everybody's relationship has changed with work. How they view their relationship with work is different, right? Like, now there's options and people have choices, and they realize that, and they're empowered by that, which is super exciting. And they want to be a little bit more particular in who they're working with, instead of just chasing a company or a title or things that way. It is about the people. But to your point, you need to kind of do some discovery yourself to understand who you are and what your story is, and find your tribe. So do you have any tricks in terms of, you mentioned kind of people don't think their stories are big enough. Do you have any tricks on how people can start thinking about where maybe a story could be in their lives?
Yes, I have some homework for everyone, some things that I want you to do. And it's fun because it's really something, it's when you get to take time and invest in yourself. So I like people to sit down and write down. And I do this with every single one of my clients when we first start working together, because it helps me get to know them too. But what's so funny is once they do this exercise, they start realizing things about themselves that they hadn't thought of or they hadn't really put out there. And it really was transformative for them. So I want you to do the same. 3 things that you do that most other people in your field of expertise are not doing. So 90% of people are all doing the same thing. Let's be honest. But 10% is just doing something that is unique. I call that your 10% edge. So write down 3 things that you do that's different than everyone else in your field. Then write down that one thing. This is your uniqueifier. That one thing that you have done, that you do, that you did, that no one else has on their resume. And I want you to have those in your back pocket. Those are valuable takeaways that I want you to bring to your job interview, your town hall, your Zoom meeting, if you're pitching a client. All of those things can be incorporated to get the other person on the other side of the lens to invest in you, because it's different than everything else that they're seeing. Have you ever had that question from a hiring manager that's like, I've got all of these resumes on my desk. What makes you different than everyone else in this resume? That should be the easiest answer for you now that you've done that exercise. And then the other thing I want you to do is look at your perceived weakness. This is something that you think holds you back, and something that you are fearful of in overcoming that, because your fears is what actually holds you back. And when you write it out and say it out loud, I just did this with a client yesterday, and I really pushed her to say it out loud and say what it was. And the fear was that she's too junior in this big, huge conference of all of these incredible, accomplished people, that she felt like she was too junior to be presenting. And I was like, well, how does it feel when you actually say that? When you actually admit that you think that's the problem? And it was like, actually, it feels pretty good, because before it's just swimming in your head and it's just living there festering. But when you say it out loud, it just takes away some of that power. So I just want you to try those different exercises, put it into practice, and see what changes in your delivery. And I always love hearing from people. Always feel like you can tweet me or DM me when you've had like something that's been transformative by taking those exercises. I always love to hear about it.
And I'm sure people will. I know I will. I was, as you were talking, I kind of lost track because I started thinking about it myself. And you're right. I mean, I think the most common question we hear, in a job interview is, tell me about yourself, or what makes you unique or different, or what's your superpower, things that way. And even though we know that question's coming, we don't have a unique story. Generally, what we do is we go to our resume and we start kind of chronologically talking about what we've done in our career and maybe some highlights and accomplishments we've had, but it lacks emotion. It lacks the uniqueness, and that's not complete. That's not who you are. What you've done is not who you are. So I love
you're
that
not
exercise.
a piece of paper.
Yeah.
You are not a
and
piece
you're not
of paper.
Results. Yeah,
yes, exactly.
You're more than that. You're more than that. So I definitely love that. And I think even if you're in sales and you're selling someone on video and they ask, why you? Like there's an opportunity for storytelling. There's an opportunity to tell them about yourself, and not just go to your product tech specs and pricing and logical arguments. So really tapping into that emotional level, I think is really key. So they've developed a unique story. How do you have the confidence, and why video? Like, why do you find, like, why not just write it down? Or is that an option? Or why do you find video the most compelling way to tell that story? And how do you feel comfortable telling that story on video? A lot of questions. I get carried away.
Hold on, let me write it down. No, I think that obviously, because as I said in the beginning, we're all broadcasters right now, and that video is the new boardroom. Regardless of whether you want it to be, it's the most effective way right now that we can communicate. And it's not going anywhere. Obviously, now we know we don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars sending our consultants all across the country traveling, because we can make sales over Zoom. That's a new reality. And so embracing it is obviously the most important part, because we know after 2 years, it isn't going anywhere, even if we become hybrid. But also in building the confidence. And I actually just launched the book today. It's called Confidence Quotient. And I wrote this ebook because everything that I was hearing from my clients in media training, because media training is not for everybody. I mean, this is like a really high level CEO or expert or thought leader. But everything I heard from them is the skills that they gained in confidence on camera for media applied to everything in their business. So it applied to the presentation they had to give, the pitch that they had to make, the job interview that they had for a board position, which is what one of my clients reached out to me and called me and was like, I know I just got this board position because of how you taught me how to teach and talk in sound bites, if I could talk. And that was what was so fulfilling to me, is to be able to see that these principles of confidence apply not just for what I did for 15 years, which was TV. It applies to this new medium of the lens in general and how we are all connecting. And so I go through in this book my 3 pillars of confidence, which I'll go through really quickly with you. I just talk about the preparation, your purpose, and whatever you're doing, and the promises that you make to yourself. And again, it goes a lot to mindset. But I think people don't think that they can increase their confidence. They think that it's just sort of like IQ. You have what you have, but it's proven. It's proven that you can overcome some of these things. And it's the only thing that can take people to the next level. Overcoming fears is the only thing that takes people to the next level.
And what was you mentioned, kind of touched on a little bit, the inspiration behind the book was more because of, you just saw similarities in terms of how you were preparing executives for media training would really translate to life in general. Yeah. So like was that the inspiration in terms of how that kind of came to be? That's so cool.
There's another inspiration actually. And I share about it in the book. And it was actually a really hard thing to talk about, but really important. It's my most embarrassing moment. And it was a time where I just fell so tragically on my face and failed in a very public and embarrassing way. But I did so to prove, one, as I have in my byline, I am a confident person in progress. While I teach people how to be confident on camera, I actually follow these techniques to be able to overcome what has held me back and continues to hold me back. But I share it to show people how to take what is your perceived weakness and these failures and turn it into that superpower. So what was holding me back was the fear of XYZ. What now I'm able to do with it I felt like I needed and I wanted to share that with others so that they could take what felt like their biggest career ender and say, this might be your career starter.
That's great. That's great. And such a great inspiration to help us all get there, right? Like in terms of getting confident, we can all work on confidence and self-awareness. I just listened to, not a plug, but a podcast with Bradley Cooper, where he was talking about that he's still working on his self-esteem and his confidence at his level. And he was very open and vulnerable talking about that, where we all are. Like, you're never fully confident. It's, you're just kind of adding to it and becoming more self-aware and, kind of doing some deep searching, which is extremely vulnerable to go through, but super rewarding if you can get there. So I love that you came up with that book. It's called The Confident Quotient. And where can people find the book?
So it is on my website, lynnsmithtv.com. And there's a courses section. So I have my Crush It on Video and my Crush It on TV course. And then just launched Confidence Quotient today. So I'm so excited to share it. And I think that you're so right when you're talking about someone like Bradley Cooper. You think that these people all have it together, and gosh, does social media make us feel that way? And I always did something on my social media called Instagram versus reality, which a lot of people do now, because it was so important, especially for other working moms. I had so many people reach out to me and they were like, oh my gosh, you're so put together. How do you do it all? And you've got 2 kids. And I was like, oh my God, I need to start showing the reality. I'm like, it's a hot mess express over here. And so I started showing a little bit of the mess. And it's important for all of us to acknowledge no one's got it together. No one has their confident quotient through the roof. And the best people and the most successful people are the ones who are constantly working on themselves and the people that make them better, because that's what takes us to the next level. That's what helps us to grow as entrepreneurs, employers, employees, is what more value can I add? How can I impact? How can I do something that's positive? Because right now, when the world is on fire and everything feels like it's falling apart, we need to each be doing that collectively. That's essential, I think, for right now.
Great. And there was a question that I had before, and I know we're kind of going out of order, but do we have time for one more before?
Yeah, sure. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Okay. Awesome. You talked a little bit about talking in sound bites when you were
Mm.
describing that. Can you, and I know it's probably a big topic, can you unpack what that is and maybe how we would kind of go about improving that in our communication style?
Yes. So this is going to be the very quick version of it, because this is what basically the training is you want to become a soundbite machine. Sound bites in television are 35 to 45 seconds sound bites. It's not a minute and a half. And the two things people do the most and most often is they repeat themselves, or they don't know how to stop themselves. Like they just keep going and going and going, and they don't know how to stop themselves. So I created this construct of a soundbite to help keep people in a box. And it's essentially start with the headline. It's why do I care? Put it in headline form, and it's the first thing out of your mouth. And that's the advice that I got from my news director in Philadelphia, Dave Parker. If you are out there, you continue to be an influence on me. He told me that's how I start all of my pieces. Just tell me why I care and put it in headline form. And I was like, duh, yeah. So I want you to start your soundbite every single time in that same way. Then give me a piece of meat. This is a meaty takeaway. You walk into any media appearance or any town hall, 3 to 5 takeaways is all that people can really ingest. So give me that meaty takeaway and then end on what I like to call the chill factor. And that's sort of that thing that sort of leaves you with chills going down the back of your spine. So if I were doing a soundbite about confidence quotient, for example, I get it. It sucks to not feel confident. Yes, even I have not felt confident on camera. But if you follow these 3 simple pillars, purpose, promise, and preparation, you will be able to overcome that one thing that you think is holding you back, your own fear. And once you overcome it, the possibilities are endless. That's a soundbite. And I literally just pulled that out of nowhere. I didn't know you were going to ask that question. But if you follow the construct of a soundbite, it's easy to do. And it's funny because my husband now says, he's like, I feel like we go to dinner parties and either I end up interviewing somebody and they tell me their whole life story, or I just talk in sound bites. And I was like, well, I know, I don't know how to turn it off. And then I realized clients started saying the same thing to me. They're like, gee, thanks. Now I go to dinner parties and I talk in sound bites. And I was like, well, your media appearances are pretty good, aren't they? So it works.
I love that. And I know we talked about that kind of before we first connected. And I feel like we can do a whole episode on talking in sound bites because I think it's super important and relevant. But I appreciate you kind of giving that framework type kind of description on what it is and how we can all apply that. Because, when you talk about people not knowing when to end and keep going, that's me for sure. For sure. It's like my mind is going and my mouth just keeps going. And in my head, it's like, stop talking. You got to stop talking.
Okay, do you want to know my hack for that real quick? My hack for when that happens, you have your 3 to 5 valuable takeaways. It's like in your back pocket. It's your bucket to pull from. So you always have something to go to. Literally cough. I know this sounds right. Just go. Basically what I want you to take away here. So you're literally stopping yourself and then you're giving them something valuable. It's because your head knows and you're just thinking to yourself, how do I get back to basically the point and end it? So you just, excuse me, what I want you to take away, and it works. Try it out and see.
I'm going to be coughing a lot on camera. So thanks. Thanks for that. Lynn, we took up, much of time. I'm extremely grateful that you came on and chatted with me and my guests. Again, I'm going to put links below where you can find Lynn. But if you want to give us kind of where they can find you, your website, your podcast, the book, everything,
yes.
Where can we all find you?
So if you head over to lynsmithtv.com, you will find all of the courses and the book and how to set up a call with me. Crush It on TV and Crush It on Video are there as well. But what I would love to do is I have had so much fun chatting with you guys. And because Confidence Quotient launched today, I would love to offer 50% off for all of your listeners. I'll have a coupon code that is just hired. That is good for a week. And so hopefully some of you folks out there can get a copy of it and share with me. I have a bunch of exercises in the book that you do that will help you actually tangibly see how it increases over time in your confidence.
Thank you so much for that, Lynn. I appreciate your time. I'm excited to dig into the book, and I will definitely be giving you my thoughts. And I hope everybody else here does too as well. Take advantage of that. Read the book. Let us know what you think. And Lynn, thanks again. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Pleasure's mine.